Well, I'm a journalist and writer to trade, Edith, and for the last few years I've worked with the Orkney marketing programme. It's a public sector funded initiative to promote like the sectors here, like food and drink, the creative industries, renewable energy, which is a big thing here, and tourism. So we have got the Orkney.com website, but because of my background in journalism, I did a bit of TV reporting as well. I look after media visits into the county, so it's like, from all over the world we get travel journalists coming here, newspapers, magazines, but we do lots of TV stuff. So over the last few years, I've sort of helped facilitate that and kind of just oiled the wheels between productions wanting to film in Orkney and the local community. So I guess the film was a natural extension of that. There's a lot of love and support here for Amy Liptrop's writing and her success. Everyone's kind of really kind of happy about that. And there was always that sort of sense that a film adaptation was a sort of inevitable next step for it. So I think when the local community learned that this was going to be happening here, and crucially, they wanted to film the Orkney elements in Orkney. I guess, it'd have been cheaper and less challenging logistically for them to kind of stunt it up somewhere else. But there's nowhere that looks like Orkney other than Orkney. So that was a big plus, the fact they kind of wanted to come here and do that. So that helped in terms of getting the kind of community on board with it. And it was clear from the outset, from the early meetings with the production team and director Nora Finchside and cinematographer Roy Eimer, that they really were sort of striving to kind of honour Amy's story and reflect the truth of that and reflect the kind of truth of Orkney as well, which is really important. So not sugarcoating it at all. They took the time to kind of get to know the place and the people and understand how things kind of work here. I mean, it's like, it's a beautiful place, but it's also a working community. So it wasn't a case of them imposing a kind of creative vision on the community. They worked with the community to realise that creative vision together, and that's a huge thing for them. So I think, it was the perfect kind of team, personality-wise, all the producers, Serge included. They just took the time to understand the place and work with people, and people responded to that. You kind of folk here, you have to treat them with respect and things, and they'll kind of willingly kind of help if you earn their trust and things, and you don't kind of mess them about, and that's a kind of massive thing. There was a lot of excitement. I think there was excitement about the fact that we're coming to film in Orkney, and then another level of excitement when folk learned that they were going to be casting local people to take part. So yeah, it's and amazing performances by lots of them, who'd never acted before. So that lent a kind of almost like documentary feel to the whole thing, a real authenticity, and it's a nice layer as well for folk here who are going to go and see it, that you have the amazing story and the amazing performance by Serge and the other leads in the thing, but you also have that opportunity to say, oh, there's so and so, or there's my street or whatever. I know that kind of bit of coast and that. So there's all that kind of going on in the background too. So yeah, everyone's real buzz about it here. Folk here will willingly kind of help out. As I say, if you're kind of they trust the process, and part of my job is explaining, particularly with TV things as well, that is explaining to them how sometimes TV schedules or film production schedules kind of chop and change depending on weather or whatever else, and it's kind of meet them halfway really. So you're explaining the process to the local community, and you're also explaining how the community works to the production team too. But it wasn't really an issue. I think that because of the personalities of the folk involved, and that kind of clear commitment to honouring the place and the story, that folk got on board and didn't really need a lot of persuading. My job as fixer, I'm only as good as the kind of contacts and the people I'm kind of hassling to get things and that. But everybody was like super willing to try and kind of chip in and get involved. So it did feel like a massive community effort. It's just that whole sort of sense of the place that the film captures. It's not all kind of sunsets and puffins and standing stones and things. The Orkney's a raw and elemental place, particularly in the kind of winter months. There's a different side of it. So it's a recognisable Orkney for those of us who belong here, live here. So that's really important, is that's portrayed. So that's that kind of big picture rather than any specific location. I mean, personally, I love the west mainland coast of Orkney with the cliffs and the beaches and that comes off really well. And things like popular sites like the Ring of Broadgar, the Standing Stones, they're captured really well too, so it's lovely to see all that. So yeah, it's just that, yeah, it's that sense that there's a sort of real truth about it, which I really kind of like. So I think it proves that we can, from a technical point of view, it proves we can handle a fairly big film production, and we've actually got two other ones in the mix now as well. So probably off the back of the fact that we've done the Outrun, that people are maybe looking at Orkney thinking, okay, we can maybe do something there. So that's quite good. We obviously have to kind of manage that carefully as well, that you don't want to be suddenly swamped with film productions running about all over the place, because the Outrun team are really kind of good and sensitive. We might get one that's maybe not the same, but so far all the indications are that everybody's of a sort of similar mindset, and they're recognising that there's things you have to do to work in a community like this. So there's that aspect as well. But I think it's just an example of what we can achieve as a community. It's like it's a huge team effort. Local people and businesses and agencies like the RSPB or Historic Environment Scotland, Visit Scotland, ourselves, council. Everybody kind of work together to make this happen. So it's a good example of what we can achieve creatively, because it is a creative community, this. So yeah, it's really kind of proud of that aspect of it. As I say, it's that sense that this is the kind of Orkney that we all recognise, You're walking along the coast in the winter with a dog or whatever, and it's like the waves are coming over the cliffs and the wind's blowing and that. That's kind of, yeah, that's the real Orkney, But, and also to see things like, the kind of wildlife and the nature and that sort of peace and yeah, it's just it's a it's a beautiful thing to see, and I think that to see our community represented in that way and know that they all kind of contributed to this is a massive thing. There was one day that I knew that the weather was really good when they were here, and they were looking for waves and a bit of wind and stuff to kind of for the scene that SERS conducts the waves and that. So one day I'd looked at the surf forecast that morning and I thought actually there might be some waves at a Bay of Scale, and I said to Nora Fingshade, I think you're probably going to get waves here, but then immediately felt pressure. I thought, what if they move the whole thing up there and there's like no waves? I'm going to be like a complete tool, So thankfully we got there and it was a bit of a sea on, so I was like, So when I see that scene, I'm thinking, yeah, that was a quite a good call,